Welcome back to another episode of She's Evolving. I'm Elena, your host, and a medical endocrinologist specializing in the intricate dance of hormones and longevity. Today, we are opening a door to a room that many of us enter with a mix of pride, confusion, and a little bit of heartbreak. We're talking about the shift in relationships with our adult children. It's that pivotal moment when the house grows quiet, the frantic schedule of school runs and soccer games disappears, and we are left standing in the hallway asking ourselves, where do I fit in now? When they grow up and take flight, what happens to the person I've been for the last 2 decades? Who am I, if not just mom?
And I'm Julia, a clinical psychologist. I work every day with women who are navigating this exact transition, this second adolescence, if you will, but for the parents. It's a profound identity shift. For years, your worth, your time, and your very heartbeat were synced to the needs of your children. When those needs change, when they start making their own doctor's appointments, buying their own groceries, and making life decisions without asking for your permission, it can feel like a tectonic plate is shifting under your feet. If you've ever sat in a clean, quiet living room and felt a strange sense of mourning despite being happy for your children's success, this episode is dedicated to you. We're going to talk about the empty nest, yes, but more importantly, we're going to talk about the full self that comes next. It's so true, Julia. And before we dive deep into the emotional and physical aspects of this change, we want to invite all of you listening to join our community. If this conversation resonates with you, please subscribe to She's Evolving on your favorite platform. Share this episode with a friend who might be staring at an empty bedroom today and wondering what's next. We are in this together.
Elena, let's start with the heart of it. I remember when my youngest moved out for university. I had spent years complaining about the piles of shoes by the door and the constant noise. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, I walked into the kitchen and it was pristine. And I hated it. I sat down and cried over a clean countertop. It wasn't just that I missed her, it was that I didn't know what to do with the manager part of my brain that had been running on high alert for 25 years. Did you have a similar jolt when your kids hit that stage of independence?
Oh, absolutely. For me, as a physician, I'm used to being the fixer. At work, I solve hormonal imbalances. At home, I solved everything from broken hearts to lost backpacks. When my son moved across the country for his first job, I realized my fixing wasn't just unnecessary, it was actually becoming an intrusion. I remember calling him to remind him to take his vitamins and check his oil, and he said, "Mom, I've got it. I've had it for months." That hit me like a ton of bricks. It was a physical sensation of being fired from a job I loved. And interestingly, as an endocrinologist, I started noticing how my own stress levels spiked. We often talk about the empty nest syndrome as a purely psychological thing, but there's a biological component. Our oxytocin, the bonding hormone, is so tied to that caretaking role. When that daily physical proximity and the need for caretaking drop off, our brain chemistry actually has to recalibrate.
That's a fascinating point, Elena. That recalibration is exactly what I see in my practice. Women come in feeling invisible or purposeless. We've been conditioned by society to believe that a woman's peak value is in her mothering years. So when the children become adults, many women feel like they've been pushed off the stage and told to go sit in the audience. But here's the secret. The relationship isn't ending, it's evolving from a hierarchy to a partnership. You are moving from the chief operating officer of their lives to a senior consultant. A consultant doesn't give orders, they offer wisdom when asked. And that transition is hard because it requires us to find a new source of validation. If your validation came from being needed, you're going to feel empty. If your validation starts coming from being yourself, you start to bloom in a whole new way. Senior consultant. I love that analogy. But let's talk about the friction that happens during this transition. I see so many women in their 50s who are also dealing with perimenopause or menopause right as their kids are leaving. It's a perfect storm. Your hormones are fluctuating, which can make you more sensitive, more prone to anxiety or low mood, and then you have this massive life change. I've had patients tell me they feel like they're losing their minds. They're grieving their children's childhood, they're grieving their own youth, and they're struggling to connect with their adult kids because they're coming from a place of lack rather than abundance.
Yes, and that's where the "and me" question becomes so vital. When we operate from a place of lack, feeling like we need our children to fill our time or emotional gaps, we inadvertently put a heavy burden on them. Adult children can sense that neediness, and it often makes them pull away more because they're trying to establish their own boundaries. I often tell my clients, the best gift you can give your adult child is your own happiness. When they see you pursuing a new hobby, traveling, or even just being content in your own skin, it frees them to live their lives without feeling guilty for leaving you. But Elena, from a health perspective, how can women manage that physical stress of the empty nest storm?
It starts with acknowledging that the stress is real. When cortisol, the stress hormone, is high because of emotional upheaval, it exacerbates every menopausal symptom. It makes the hot flashes worse, the insomnia more frequent, and the brain fog thicker. My advice is always to reclaim your body as your first project. For 20 years, your body was a vessel for others, carrying them, feeding them, running after them. Now, it's time to nourish it for you. This is the time to look at your bone density, your muscle mass, and your metabolic health. I've seen women start weightlifting at 55 because they finally have the time. And the transformation isn't just physical, it's psychological. They feel strong. And when you feel strong in your body, you feel less fragile about your changing role in the family.
It's about reclaiming agency. I think one of the biggest myths we need to debunk is the idea that the best years are behind us. There's this cultural narrative that once the kids are gone, you're just waiting for grandkids. But that's a tragedy. This middle act of life is actually the first time many of us have both the resources and the self-awareness to truly explore who we are. I've had women go back to school at 50, start businesses, or finally take that solo trip they always dreamed of. The where do I fit in answer is you fit in the center of your own life, not the periphery of your children's lives.
Let's dive into some of the common questions we get because I know there's a lot of guilt involved here. Julia, a lot of women ask, how do I stay involved without being that mother-in-law or that overbearing mom? How do we set those boundaries? It's all about the ask, don't tell rule. Instead of saying, you should really be saving more money, or why haven't you called your aunt? You shift to curiosity. How are you feeling about your finances these days? Or, I'm heading to see your aunt. Would you like me to send her your love? It's a subtle shift from being an authority figure to being a supportive witness. And boundaries go both ways. You also need to set boundaries for yourself. If your adult child is calling you every time they have a minor crisis and it's draining you, it's okay to say, I love you, and I know you're smart enough to figure this out. Let me know what you decide. It's empowering for them and liberating for you.
And what about the fear of the relationship fading? I think that's what drives a lot of the clinging, the fear that if I don't keep inserting myself, they'll forget me or I won't be important anymore. That's a real fear, but the irony is that clinging is what actually drives them away. Think of the relationship like a rubber band. If you're always pulling on it, it's under tension. If you let it go a little, it stays connected but relaxed. Adult children usually come back more frequently and more authentically when they feel they have the space to miss you. And Elena, I've noticed that when women focus on their own health and vitality, like you mentioned, they become more attractive to be around. Not just in a physical sense, but their energy is magnetic. People want to be around someone who is evolving and excited about life.
Exactly. I often tell my patients that their second half can be their best half if they stop looking in the rearview mirror. We spend so much time mourning the toddlers they were that we miss the incredible adults they've become. And we miss the incredible woman we are becoming. There's a physiological second wind that can happen in our 50s if we support our bodies correctly. With the right hormonal support, nutrition, and mindset, the empty nest years can be a period of intense creativity and physical renewal. I love that, intense creativity. It's like we're reparenting ourselves. We're giving ourselves the attention, the care, and the playtime that we gave to our children for so many years. I remember one client who was terrified of her daughter moving out. 6 months later, she told me, Julia, I realized I haven't painted in 20 years. I turned her bedroom into an art studio. I still love her, I still talk to her every day, but when I walk into that room now, I don't see an empty space. I see my own potential.
That is so powerful. It's about shifting the perspective from loss to space. Space for new things to grow. Space for a different kind of relationship with your children. One based on mutual respect and shared interests rather than necessity. And honestly, it's a relief. I love my kids, but I also love not having to worry about their laundry or their grades. I love the freedom to decide what I want for dinner or to stay up late reading a book without being interrupted.
It's a liberation that we often feel guilty for enjoying. Let's talk about that guilt for a second. Many women feel like they're bad mothers if they aren't constantly pining for their kids. But that's a lie. Enjoying your independence is a sign of a job well done. It means you raised children who are capable of standing on their own, and you are a woman who is capable of standing on her own. It's a success story, not a tragedy. As we start to wrap up this conversation, I want to remind everyone listening that your body and your mind are undergoing a massive transition, and it's okay to feel a bit lost, but don't stay lost. Use this time to check in with yourself. Get those blood tests done, look at your hormone levels, move your body in ways that make you feel strong, and start asking that big question, what do I want now? And remember, the "and me" part of the title isn't selfish, it's essential. You are the protagonist of your own story, not a supporting character in someone else's. Your relationship with your adult children will be much richer when it's built on the foundation of two whole, independent people sharing their lives. If you're feeling that empty feeling today, take a deep breath. It's just the clearing of the stage for your next big act.
Thank you for joining us today on She's Evolving. This journey of motherhood doesn't end, it just changes shape. Your body is changing, your house is changing, but your potential is only growing. You are not alone in this. We are right here with you, evolving every step of the way. If this episode spoke to you, please share it with a sister, a friend, or a colleague who might need to hear that it's okay to focus on themselves for a change. Follow us for more conversations about health, psychology, and the beautiful complexity of being a woman over 40. Until next time, keep evolving. See you in the next episode. Take care of yourself. You deserve it. Julia, we were just touching on how the brain chemistry of a mother is wired for protection, but there is a fascinating shift that happens as we cross that 50-year mark. From a medical perspective, our neuroplasticity is still very much alive, but the urgency of the nurturing hormones like oxytocin and prolactin starts to settle into a different rhythm. It's almost as if the body is physically signaling that the high alert phase of active parenting is winding down. But even with that biological shift, the emotional transition is where I see most women struggling. They tell me, Elena, I have the time now, but I don't know what to do with my hands if they aren't helping someone else.
That is so profound, Elena. What to do with my hands. It's a literal and metaphorical emptiness. In my practice, I call this the identity vacuum. For 20 or 30 years, your schedule, your dopamine hits, and your very sense of purpose were tied to the needs of your children. When those needs evaporate, because they are now capable adults, it's not just the house that feels empty, it's the self-concept. We've spent so long being the manager of lives that we've forgotten how to be the architect of our own. And that brings us to a very important part of our conversation today, the myths we believe about this stage of life. There are so many misconceptions that keep women stuck in guilt or resentment. I hear them every day in my office. One of the biggest myths is this idea that if our adult children don't seek our advice or call us every day, it means we failed or that the relationship is cooling off. I see women getting physically stressed, elevated cortisol, poor sleep, because they interpret their child's independence as a personal rejection. Exactly. Let's dive into that. This is our space 3 for today. Myths and doubts. Elena, let's tackle that first one together. The myth of constant connection. Many women feel that a good relationship with an adult child must look like it did when they were teenagers, just with better vocabulary. But the truth is, a healthy adult child is often a busy, slightly distant one. It means you did your job. You raised someone who is capable of navigating the world without holding your hand.
It's the ultimate irony of parenting, isn't it? Success means being fired from the full-time role. But Julia, what about the doubt that often follows? If I'm not their primary support, who am I to them? I've had patients tell me they feel like service providers, only called when a grandchild is sick or when there's a financial hiccup. They feel used, yet they are afraid to say no because they fear losing the connection entirely.
That is a very real fear, and it leads to the myth that setting boundaries with my adult children will push them away. In reality, the opposite is true. When we don't set boundaries, we breed resentment. If you are babysitting every weekend, but you're exhausted and your back hurts, and you're doing it only because you're afraid to say no, that resentment leaks into the relationship. Your children can feel it. True connection in this stage requires a transition from a vertical relationship, parent above child, to a horizontal one, adult alongside adult. And that means saying, I love you, and I love my grandkids, but Friday night is my painting class, and I'm not available.
Adult alongside adult. I love that phrasing. It reminds me of another question I get a lot, usually whispered, is it okay if I actually enjoy the silence? There's a lot of shame around the idea of being happy that the kids are gone. Women feel they should be mourning, but some feel a secret sense of liberation. Is that normal, Julia?
Not only is it normal, it's healthy. That secret liberation is your soul coming up for air. It's the myth that a mother's love is measured by her sacrifice. We've been fed this narrative that we must always long for our children to be near. But enjoying your own space, your own clean kitchen, and your own schedule is a sign of a well-adjusted transition. It's the "and me" part of our title today. This is the moment where you get to reclaim the parts of yourself you put in a drawer in your 30s.
I remember when my youngest moved out. For the first week, I just sat in the living room and listened to the silence. It wasn't lonely, it was spacious. But then the what now hit me. And that leads us to a very common doubt. Is it too late to start something new? Many women feel that if they haven't achieved their personal goals by 50, the window has closed. They think their body or their brain won't keep up. And that's where you come in, Elena. From a medical standpoint, is the window really closed at 50 or 55? Absolutely not. In fact, for many women, this is a biological second wind. Once the hormonal fluctuations of perimenopause begin to stabilize, many women report a surge in mantic energy, a desire to create, to lead, and to explore. Your brain is more experienced, your emotional intelligence is at its peak, and you finally have the time wealth to invest in yourself. Whether it's starting a business, traveling, or finally hitting those fitness goals, your body is capable of incredible adaptation at this age. The only thing closing the window is the mindset that our best years were the ones we gave to others. I love that term, time wealth. It's such a beautiful way to reframe the empty nest. But we also have to talk about the boomerang effect when adult children move back home. This is a huge source of stress lately. The myth is, if they come back, I have to go back to being the mommy who does their laundry and cooks every meal. Oh, I see the health consequences of that. The stress of a refilled nest can cause blood pressure spikes and total exhaustion. Women feel like they've regressed.
And the psychological key here is to realize that if they come back, the contract must be different. They are housemates who happen to be your children. It's okay to expect financial contribution, help with chores, and respect for your privacy. You are not backtracking unless you allow the old patterns to take over. This is where you practice your new identity, the woman who knows her worth and doesn't exist solely to serve. It's about mutual respect. And speaking of respect, let's talk about the in-law dynamic. This is a huge doubt area. How do I fit in when they start their own families? There's a fear of being the overbearing mother-in-law, so many women pull back too far and feel isolated. It's a delicate dance. The myth is that you have to earn your place in their new family by being constantly helpful. The reality is that you earn your place by being a source of wisdom that is only given when asked, and by being a person who has a full, vibrant life of her own. When you are happy and busy with your own life, you become a magnet. Your children and their partners will want to be around you because you bring a positive, non-anxious presence to the table. You aren't waiting for them to fill your cup. Your cup is already full. That is the goal, isn't it? To have a full cup. As we move toward our final reflections, I want to emphasize that this transition, this "where do I fit in?" is actually an invitation. It's an invitation to stop living vicariously through your children's achievements and start living through your own experiences. Your relationship with them will actually improve when you stop making them the center of your universe.
I couldn't agree more. When we take the pressure off our children to be our sole source of happiness, we set them free, and we set ourselves free. It's the most loving thing you can do for an adult child. Show them how to age with grace, purpose, and a bit of a rebel spirit. Show them that life doesn't end when the kids leave. It expands.
This has been such a deep conversation, Julia. It's clear that the "and me" question isn't selfish, it's essential. If you don't answer that question, you risk becoming a shadow of yourself, and your children don't want a shadow. They want a mother who is a whole, evolving woman.
Exactly. So to every woman listening, if you're feeling lost in the silence of your house or overwhelmed by the changing dynamics with your grown kids, take a breath. This is your time to pivot. You've spent years planting seeds in their garden. It's finally time to tend to your own. What have you been putting off? What hobby, what health goal, what dream has been sitting on a shelf? Your body is ready for this next chapter, and your mind is more resilient than you think. This isn't the end of your story as a mother, it's the beginning of your story as you. The relationship with your children will find its new shape, its new fit, and it can be more beautiful and honest than ever before, because it's based on who you both are as adults. We hope this episode has given you some peace, and perhaps a little spark of excitement for what's next. Remember, evolving is a lifelong process. You aren't done, you are just getting started in a whole new way. Thank you for joining us on She's Evolving. If this conversation resonated with you, please share it with a friend who might be navigating these same waters. Let's build a community of women who support each other in this second act.
And don't forget to follow us for more episodes where we dive into the heart of what it means to be a woman over 40, 50, and beyond. You are not alone, and you are definitely not invisible. We see you, and we are evolving right alongside you. Until next time, take care of your body, honor your emotions, and keep asking that beautiful question, "And me?" Because the answer is, yes, you. Always you. See you in the next episode. Stay vibrant, stay curious, and keep evolving. Share this with one woman today who needs to hear that her best years aren't behind her. They are happening right now. Goodbye for now.